Welcome to three. Gill Gross, Joel Drucker, Amy Lundy with you for a Roland-Garros 2025 edition. We've got three matches ahead of us in the tournament, in the singles, of course, two men's semifinals, one women's final. We're going to hit on it all. We're going to do it all. But as usual, we're going to start with Novak Djokovic, who definitely played the marquee quarterfinal of the lineup this year against Alexander Zverev. He sets up an Australian Open semifinal rematch from, 2 years ago with Jannik Sinner. But it's one that everybody remembers and might go down as a turning point long term, depending on the result of this one coming up. But I think the big storyline for Djokovic coming into the quarterfinal against Zverev was that he didn't have much of a measuring stick in the clay lead-in. The highest ranked player who he faced was Hubert Hurkacz, who was outside the top 30 in the Geneva final. And we finally get him up against a player who's had a ton of success at RG, Amy. What did you learn about Djokovic and where he's at from watching the Zverev match?
We didn't have much of a measuring stick, but do you really need a big measuring stick? I mean, I get he's 38 years old, but look at the body of work.
Well,
Like I picked him. I'll full disclosure here. I did pick him to make the semifinals, just because of who he is and the skill set that he has, and the fact that he's been there. And I'll probably continue to pick him at least that far until he retires. So I don't doubt what he brings to the table. But in terms of, and I know what you're going to say, Gil, like sometimes we have dips in level and especially in recent years, and you really didn't know what you were going to get. But I will say this. For a four-set match in which there were not a lot of lead or momentum changes, I thought this was extremely enjoyable. And I was just absolutely locked into what I was seeing.
Such a great effort from Novak too. I mean, look, he won 65% of his second serve return points, and the movement and the coverage and what's another 27 of 37 of the net. Very impressive. It was though the toughest opponent in theory he's played for a while. So that was a very impressive effort.
yeah, I mean, I think he had a tactical solution to what Zverev was trying to do. And when the attritional stuff didn't work for Zverev, he didn't have anything left. At the same time, I was really not impressed with Sasha's effort mentally or tactically. And I think there have been times where Zverev has played at a level that I think is somewhat comparable to what we've been seeing out of Jannik Sinner, at least in the ballpark. I'm not saying he's ever dominated like Sinner, but at least in the ballpark, that elite level where he's hitting the ball huge and moving well and serving great. I don't think Sasha brought that. And to Novak's credit, he made it an uncompetitive match as a result. It never felt like Zverev was really in it, other than Djokovic maybe tightening up in his last service game. But like the drop shots, right? He hits 36 drop shots. The stat that I threw out, everybody seems to be enjoying this one. He hit less second serves than drop shots in this match. And that was one example where it's like Zverev literally got beaten over and over and over and over and over again and just never found anything off of it. So I felt that Djokovic was like, it was he won via chess. He won via like, oh, you're gonna all you got, your only plan is to lengthen the rallies and try to outlast me. No, I'm drop shotting. Like you're not doing that.
So, Gil, you said that you didn't like his tactics, and you're right. Like they did play a very close set at the Australian Open. That set could have gone either way before Novak had to retire. But what did you think his game plan was? Just attrition, straight out attrition, baseline.
I think he lost confidence after playing a really bad service game in the second set, and the ground stroke speed, to my eyes, I haven't confirmed this statistically. I think the ground stroke speed went way down. And when Zverev's just not hitting the ball with conviction and standing deep on the baseline, I thought the way the break points were played were telling, where Zverev was just everything down the middle, neutral, not a lot of speed, nothing on it. His only play, in my opinion, Amy, was to make Novak's legs burn. That was the only plan. And and by the way, not by playing offense, just by playing 40 ball rallies. I think Zverev wanted 50 ball rallies if he could. And that's what Djokovic was gonna. He's like, no, I'm breaking up the rally. I'm not doing this with you.
Well, that 41 ball rally in the fourth set, I believe, right? It
Right?
was incredible. And I think, I think Zverev, you got to have a tactical consult with Brad Gilbert just to see, because it's not that his game is based on, it's not that he's erratic, it's not that he's streaky, it's not that he slaps the ball, but it's like, what's his vision of what his game is? Because when someone theoretically that imposing and powerful plays like that, you wonder what's in his mind. I just wonder how he goes about figuring out what his tactical plan is. You're right. And that one, Novak just said, "Oh, that's it. Well, you're not going to kill me. You're going to make me work. Okay, I know how to do this. I've been doing this for years, and I have more tools at my." So Djokovic has a much wider array of tools than Zverev.
Yeah, Joel, in one word, I think what you're describing, and I use this word for Zverev a lot, unimaginative. Like he doesn't have a ton of ideas. Um, and by the way, like when Djokovic drop shots and you get up to the ball and it's time to do something with the ball, that's where I think you need some ideas. And the like, I'm gonna shovel it down the line deep into the corner turned out to not be a great idea. And he kept getting lobbed and passed. And it's like, what about a redrop? Maybe go short angle. At least do a couple of different things so that Novak isn't like, okay, time for you to slice it down the line and I'm going to lob you on the next ball. And the lobs have not been talked about enough because a lot of those 36 drop shots were followed by lobs that won Novak the point. Um, but I don't want to go. I definitely want to bring this to Sinner because
Before you get to Sinner, I want to bring out something about this Zverev stuff and the plan. It's you don't just redrop to win that single point. You redrop so that now you're planting seeds for what future points are going to be. In other words, I think a lot of players when they play Zverev at this stage are thinking the pattern is clear. The pattern is so clear. I mean, Thomas Burdick was a similar version in a way. He hit the ball flatter and harder than Zverev in his time, but it's kind of like, okay, I know this is going to be. Do I have? Can I execute well enough? Because there isn't any doubt planted. So you got to redrop occasionally. So you got the guy. No, you can't just do that same thing. I'm not just going to push the ball down the line and yet you lob me. Even though I'm going to do that most of the time, you're right. I think that. Novak is a tremendous chess player, and I think Zverev is seen in these matches as kind of more checkers like. Here it is. Going to do this. Going to do that.
well, he wanted like Zverev would love if they just got into a slugfest and it was we're just gonna bang from the back of the court in these really slow conditions and we're gonna see who misses first and we're gonna see whose legs give out first. That's the match he was looking for. And as soon as he didn't get it, he didn't have anything. All right, I want to bring this back to the Sinner part of it right after this break. Monday Match Analysis is brought to you by 10S Tennis Supply, the go-to source for quality tennis equipment, court gear, and supplies. So whether you're coaching or running a club, 10S has the gear that will keep your sessions sharp. Ball hoppers, carts, scorekeepers, custom windscreens, ball machines, and their new tweener LED professional court lighting. I've talked to coaches and players. They all swear by the quality and the durability of 10S products. So head over to 10s.com. That is the number 10 s.com. Order online or over the phone and save with bulk order pricing, which is available for qualified customers. Contact 10S to learn more. How is Sinner different? Like, what are the challenges that Novak didn't have to deal with against Zverev that he will have to deal with against Sinner? And I think the most basic element of it, I think there's technical parts and mental parts. But if we start with the technical, Djokovic just didn't have to defend all that much against Zverev at a certain point. Maybe in the first set he did, at least more so. But I felt like midway through the second set, through the end of the match, it was pretty rare that Novak had to play defense. Maybe 1 point per game, maybe less. He got to be in charge because Zverev was just so stuck in neutral. And I'm curious to see what the implications are for Djokovic against a guy in Jannik who is going to belt the ball into the corners and make Djokovic do some defending on a regular basis.
Well, for example, Zverev, how often do you really have to worry about him hurting you with his down the line forehand? That's not a common thing for him that often. So let's just look at that part of the table. That how nice it is to know that mostly I have to cover one forehand that you can hit. Now you got that's one thing. Sinner's down the line forehand, tremendous. Then I have the thing that I don't know, would we say he hits 15, 20% harder than Sasha? Whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's harder and deeper. So now I've got to, it's like now I got to cover two part. Now I hit to your forehand, and so there's something I got to worry about both parts. I got a lot more court to worry about. So
I
that's
would say that because he hits with better depth and he hits probably generally harder, it's going to be much more difficult for Djokovic to employ that disruptive drop shot. So, that I think won Djokovic the match. And it's really hard to hit a drop shot if you're not inside the baseline.
that's right. The court's going to be like a hill. The court starts to feel like a hill. Like drop shot from where?
Yeah.
Well, right. So
What?
Yannick hugs the baseline more, and um and the ball's going to be coming in harder and deeper in general. And I think once he gets there, he's not a wizard, but he's more competent than Zverev when he gets to
Yeah.
a drop shot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't. I think Djokovic is going to need to go back to being selective with the drop shot, like he ordinarily would be. Um, and what I'm curious to see is can Sinner kind of do what Zverev was doing, but actually use it to his advantage, which is keep the ball on Djokovic's backhand, make things physical. Because it's clay, it's slower. It's hard for Novak to really finish with his two-hander. And I think when he starts to feel it physically and he wants the point to start to kind of get to a conclusion, he will almost bail into the drop shot. And
Yeah.
I wonder if Sinner can actually create an advantage through that tendency for Novak to bail into the drop shot.
I think just along those lines, people were pretty hard on Zverev for being passive. But I just want people to understand what conditions are really like on the ground. First of all, this is clay. And secondly, it was a night match. It was cool, but it was humid. And then the wind really was a factor because I believe Novak talked about that at length in his post-match. So my point here is that there may be some factor relating to conditions that has an impact on the match against Sinner, and that the player that is able to manage conditions better might have an advantage in that area.
So what conditions does Novak need that help him because he's the underdog? So what kind of environment is better for him?
I
Well,
think
he
quicker.
played.
I think
I,
Novak wants it hotter and quicker.
Hmm.
Um, because I think he needs his offense to work really well. His first serve, his first forehand. That's how he beat Sinner. It's too, it feels like a long time ago now, but in Turin, the last time he's beaten Jannik, and I believe he's lost four out of the last five, Djokovic, against Sinner. But that one win, he he was nuclear on his forehand. He hit it bigger and better than Jannik Sinner. If we're just going athlete for athlete, this is where I think the 38-year-old Djokovic has a bit of a problem, whereas he never would have used to. Right? Like if it just gets really physical and he's having to defend a lot on a consistent basis, and Sinner has the consistency and they're getting into, very athletic rallies repeatedly. I think that's good for Yannick. And even though Sinner's fitness is a little bit unproven, I have a feeling that he's reached the point with the 3 months off and all the work he's put in where he's ready to kind of come through one of those.
Oh, I think so. I don't think there's anything a physical concern with Sinner, and I think you're right. It's funny. Once upon a time, Novak would have said, "Let it be thick. I'll be the marathon man here."
Yeah.
But now it's a different environment and it's a different opponent and the age gap, and he needs fast. I see he needs faster conditions so he can play more dynamic, expansive, tactically expansive tennis and trot out a lot of things because he trench warfare is not going to work in his favor.
But on the conditions thing, he did play a masterful match against Zverev in managing the conditions. Like, for example, trying to serve out the match, that last game. That was difficult. And I was watching it on TV going, why is he not getting the depth that he's gotten the entire match on some of his ground strokes? It's he can't be that tired. I know he's tired and it's the end of the match.
I
Well, it
think he was
turns out
nervous.
well, he said after the match, the wind was in my face. Like it kicked up right before that last game and it was in my face. And so he had to hit the drop shots. He had to
He served and volleyed
bail
twice at
in.
deuce.
Bail
Yeah,
in.
Bail in.
Yes.
I love bail
Yes.
in.
Yes. And then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the last point of the match, it makes sense that the win would be at Novak's face because Zverev comes in to hit a volley and he hits it pretty significantly long, so the win would be at his back. So I just thought Novak managed what he had to work with better than Zverev did. So go ahead, Joel.
no, I couldn't agree with you. I mean, well, that's part of his genius because he's done that so well in so many situations, partially because he's built this wider and wider arsenal. And I think Zverev, that those conditions then hurt him because then he was his again the limits of his game. Sinner, a whole different set of questions.
And also because he is 38. There's something good about being 38. You got a lot of experience.
Yeah, I don't think
No,
he
I thought
had
so back then. I thought
what?
What's
so,
that?
I thought so 26 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the development, like Djokovic making tough volleys consistently, making easy volleys every time, like just executing them. The backhand drop shot showed up around like 2019, 2020. I think. I don't think he really loved that shot before then. And the deadliness, like the slicing second serves that he hit against Zverev. That wasn't around back in 2015. He would have been hitting kick serves to Zverev's backhand, and Sasha would have been hitting better returns. So yeah, like there's so many. It's so easy to think of things he does better now.
The
Uh,
drop shot is funny. It's so funny. I just read some other articles. The drop shot is what was the drop shot like this hybrid car, this certain thing that goes in and out, and every few years it gets like rediscovered for its qualities, where it's kind of like the Rodney Dangerfield, no respect until you realize, wait a second, the drop shot's got a lot going for it. I mean, I've I'm like the Will Rogers of drop shots. I never met when I didn't like. But that's sort of my downfall. But it's just so fun to see that. Yeah, Novak, and he's great at it, and his volleys, and you can see how much
on the
he's
backhand.
backhand. It's so much easier to volley off a backhand than a forehand because it's a sibling of the one-handed slice. So if you
Yeah.
practice and slice, it's a sibling where it's a sibling, whereas the technical gap between the forehand ground stroke and the drop shot is like a distant cousin. You don't really hit many shots that mimic the forehand drop shot.
Yeah,
The way you
totally.
hit shots that mimic the that one.
Well,
Yeah.
Sinner's worked on it hard. Zverev, by the way, doesn't have a drop shot. We might just throw in there. It's not a
Yeah.
shot he can use.
Right.
Which I think Alcaraz is making. I think in the post Alcaraz era, players are realizing like and we can get to Sabalenka, who's added it.
Yep.
It's not really, it's not really okay to not have one anymore, right?
More so than it was in so you thought that when Rafa had it, it was kind of like, oh, that's just Rafa's the province of Rafa. And then no, and then Roger kind of begrudgingly let it brought it in '09 when he won the French. All he did was win the French, and that helped him do that, and so on. But it was kind of like, oh, these big guys have it. Now it's becoming, you mean like standard issued equipment, you think?
And also, yes, and also on a big point, I got to be honest, like I hear older tennis minds all the time on a big point, they freak out when there's a drop shot. Like don't hit drop shots under pressure, or that's not a good decision, even when it clearly was, but just because it's
Same
a
thing
drop
with
shot.
serve and volley.
Right. So I'm just saying, I just think the thinking, I think Alcaraz should be mostly credited for beginning to change the thinking. Like, no, it's okay to hit a drop shot down break point. It's if you're inside the court and your opponent is far back, you should drop shot. It's the right shot. Like, it's okay.
Rafa
Um,
would do it some, but I think Alcaraz has brought it in more like use it more. I think with
yeah.
Nadal, it's kind of a special occasion shot. And I think Alcaraz is sort of an app, a software app. With Alcaraz, it's in the operating system,
I
right?
don't want to ignore that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Getting back on track, and I want to kind of get to the nitty gritty of what we think is going to happen in the semi before we go to the other stuff. I think one of the biggest differences is mental here as well, because I do think again, like I think Zverev is an exceptionally difficult opponent. I also think that the scar tissue of all the tough losses at majors, we're seeing the effect of that because I think his compete level dropped, his intensity dropped, his belief went away really quickly in that match after losing the second set. And you just know that you might win one set against Sinner, two sets against Sinner, and he's going to think the entire time that he can win the match. And I just think that was another area that Djokovic could benefit from, where Jannik is going to be just a different animal. Just the confidence, the belief, the, the command of what you're doing on the court, which Zverev just absolutely lost. And I guess my thesis here, uh, that I've been kind of getting at is I have so much respect for how tough and out Zverev is at Roland-Garros, but I don't think it's at all comparable to Jannik Sinner and what Djokovic is going to see in the semifinal. I think it's like a different universe.
I can agree with you more. Look, it's funny. I talk to coaches about this all the time. And one of my jokes, I said, yeah, you talk about the process, but nothing validates the process better than a good outcome. And there are three reasons. There are three significant reasons why Sinner's a different thing than Zverev. The Australian Open 24, the US Open 24, and the Australian Open 25. I mean, Sinner's banked three majors already, and Zverev is still searching for it, and he's arguably the best active player to have never won a slam, and that hangs over him. And there are other things. You see in some enough matches by now how victimized he sometimes acts. That he's a bit of he gets a little upset. And that doesn't help him either. I mean, that's why it'd be interesting for him to kind of, evaluate some of these things because he is so good. Of course, he's terrific, but I don't know. No, and Novak knows that. Novak knows that he can get into blink. I mean, Novak's not the one who's supposed to win the 41 ball rally. The younger guy's supposed to win that rally at this stage.
But what did Novak do twice during that? It wasn't supposed to be 41 shots.
So he dropped and
He
then he
He
hit.
drop
dropped
shotted twice.
he drop shotted on like the 20th shot.
Yeah.
And then they somehow ended up back at the baseline.
But why doesn't Zverev have a drop shot? I got
Good
a
question.
drop. Why doesn't he have a
It's
drop
not
shot?
just him. It is so many players, men and women, are just so reluctant to add things, change a grip, add a shot. There's still very much a pervasive baseline mentality, I think.
Amy, what do you think is going to happen in the semifinal?
Well, pre-tournament, I picked Sinner, as much as that pains me. Not because, I'm a huge Djokovic fan, which I am. Why wouldn't you be? But I don't like in Grand Slams, I don't like to pick against the GOAT or one of the three. It just is very painful to me because of the experience and the proven track record and everything else. I think the biggest question as regards Sinner is he hasn't really been tested much in this run. And really, the last big test that he played was against Carlos in the final of Rome. So that's been a while. So if the match wears on, does he get tired? Does he get mentally tired? Um, but that is just one factor in potentially in Novak's favor, and a lot of the other factors I think favor Sinner.
Yeah, I agree about that about Sinner. I also think that I'm going to write about this soon. Last year, Novak, I thought, used Wimbledon as a tune-up to really make his go at the Olympics. I'm wondering, and of course, there's a lot of reverse engineering in all parts of life, including the tennis. I wonder if this French effort, these 6 matches, in his mind, hopefully 7 matches, are kind of his way. Look at me, get in good, darn good shape for another go at Wimbledon. Because
Yeah.
look, Novak, remember, 3 weeks ago he hadn't won a tournament all year, et cetera, et cetera. Is he going to win 100 titles? He's put some nice things in place. Opponent ranking be darned. That doesn't matter as much as good tennis in Geneva. Good tennis. Also, he's not likely to leave Roland-Garros injured. He's leaving healthy. He's going to be healthy. I think against Sinner, as far as that match goes, if Novak wins that match, I think that is one of the tremendous efforts of his career. It's like more so even than the Alcaraz win in Australia. That was neat too, but I think Alcaraz is a oddly enough so funny an easier riddle for him than Sinner. Sinner is like he's looking at a version of himself, yet better, younger.
He
Whereas I
is.
think
I agree in the sense that Djokovic could be really tactical against Zverev and basically checkmate him in the tactics department. But just like there's never been a great tactic against Novak because all tactics are designed to exploit
I
weaknesses.
they go to die, yeah, against Novak, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's the tactic? You need a weakness for a tactic. And I think Sinner, same thing, like what's the tactic? You need a weakness for a tactic. So I think it becomes purely, very technical, physical, raw power. Just what do you got in the legs? How's your movement? And I think Sinner is going to be able to get the match into that sort of thing. And I think my official prediction is Sinner in four. And I'd be closer to saying three than five, I think. I don't think the tactics are going to be there. I think it's going to be purely physical. I think Sinner's going to out physical him and make him play defense a lot. And I think that's going to be the big difference is he's going to have to play a lot of defense.
I like, what did you say? A tactic needs a weakness. Is that what you said? That's kind of an interesting coaching premise. It's like, right, where's talking to someone who I just had a root canal, so I'm aware of this. Where's the cavity? Where's the fissure in the mouth? And you look at Sinner and right, and and Alcaraz, well, it's not just a weakness. Alcaraz, we'll talk about it another time. Alcaraz has the tools to then exploit to find those. But Novak, it's a different tool set he has, and in fact, his tool set is the one that Sinner built off of. I mean, you so clearly see the impact of Novak's game on Sinner.
Okay, let's talk about Alcaraz Musetti in the other semifinal right after this.
Roland-Garros coverage on Monday Match Analysis is brought to you by Go Sport. It's a family-owned company that specializes in just tennis bags, so they do it better. It stands up all on its own, which is one of my favorite parts. It's got more pockets than you could possibly ever need, and a black design that's sleek and matches all tennis racket brands. This compartment up here is special. It's ventilated, designed specifically for shoes and clothes. Check out gosport.com. That's Go, G-E-A-U, and use the code GILL10 for 10% off your order. It's my favorite bag that I've ever owned. Support them because they support us.
I feel like the things that Musetti does to opponents generally doesn't isn't likely to affect Alcaraz much. And the two things are he's so impossible to hit through and finish against that it's like you're playing against a wall in terms of what he's able to do defensively. And I've never seen Alcaraz have a problem finishing against anybody in any conditions. It's just the deadliness is too much. And then the other thing Musetti does really well is mixing things up with heights and spins and just introducing so much variety that nobody can get their rhythm or their timing. And I think Alcaraz kind of loves that environment as well. So for me, the two things that Musetti does is not great against Carlos.
Agreed.
I
I like that. I'll go ahead and
I think both players have in common that their serve is maybe not, it's not a weakness, but it's maybe not the best part of their game. So that means a lot of physical points, long rallies, that kind of thing. One player has a one-handed backhand that could potentially be exploited, but it hasn't been exploited almost this entire clay season. So it could go five. And then if it goes five, and that could have an impact on the final if either player, but especially if Alcaraz comes through.
Well, in a certain way, just as Novak looks across the net and sees a version of himself, Musetti, though he's got the one-hander's different, Musetti looks at Alcaraz and say, well, wait, Musetti's usually used to being the stylish, eclectic, variety way of building points. Alcaraz is yet that much even more in all the things he can do. And you see the scoreline when they played in Rome, it was 3-6. So that was a good tight second set. Monte Carlo final, 3-6, 1-0. I just think I would personally, from a tennis standpoint, my as an appetite, I would rather watch this match than the Sinner Djokovic. I know the Sinner Djokovic has like epic implications of these great titans who've won multiple majors, and Musetti's never won it. But as far as point watching goes, just point watching, there's going to be a lot of fun points in this one, and there'll probably be some moments of joy and mutual appreciation and smiles. But I don't know how Musetti again gets Alcaraz to miss a lot. And then the other question I want to bring up about Musetti, should he be in this semi? Based on what,
You want to talk about that? How much time do we have?
okay,
Genuine question. Genuine question.
I just asked.
No, I'm saying how much time do we have is a genuine
Oh,
question.
we have a few more minutes. Okay, we can go a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, it's okay.
So, okay, sure. So the way this has been officiated has been based on whoever is hit with the ball, what their reaction is, and if there's an injury. And if there's physical distress or some kind of injury, Miyu Kato, ball girl, cries and leaves the court. Uh, Djokovic, ladies on the court for 2 minutes, grabbing her throat.
We don't
Uh,
remember that lady's name.
now Bandian, now Bandian cuts the guy's shin open. Shapovalov, excuse me, Shapovalov hits the umpire in the eye, and that was like really ugly. I don't know if there was an
Yeah,
injury,
that's
but
surgery.
he had surgery. Okay, there you go. So in all these cases, there's an injury, there's a default. Then I have all these cases where there's no injury or distress, and there's no default. In which case, people say, well, why aren't you punishing the action, right? Why would you punish the results? Shouldn't you be punishing the action? And I think about it and I get people's argument there and their stance, but I don't want, okay, there's two things I don't want. I don't want Musetti defaulted for what happened there. I just think it's too minor and the punishment doesn't fit the crime. It's nuts to me if he gets defaulted. It's bad for everybody. I also don't want Shapovalov to still be able to play. So I like that there's just okay, let's make a judgment here. And I don't think that I think it's unfortunate where players like Miyu Kato and Novak at the US Open in particular can get unlucky. But I think the consequence of the action is that you might get unlucky. You might get defaulted.
So I run the stop sign as long as I don't hit anyone. That's okay. I don't deserve a ticket. But if I run the stop sign and I hit someone, see, it's not what why it's not bad for everybody if Musetti gets defaulted. It's not bad for everybody if it's the rule. I mean, so we're gonna base the enforcement on the reaction of the inflicted, of the victim.
What's the alternative is putting in the code either whenever you hit somebody on the court, you're just defaulted like it's lava that you can't touch. Uh,
Well,
Well,
there's
okay,
also
what if it was?
intent. There's
What if it was?
intent,
Well, there's
you
no
know.
intent. No one intends. Look, no one
nope,
would.
nobody intends.
But
And
okay, but my intention was to let out my frustration and slam the ball down versus I bounced it off my foot and it ricocheted off of somebody, right? So he was upset. He was angry. So he flung it. But I like the way you broke it down, Gil, because the test that I always do is let's pretend that he did get defaulted. I don't like that. That's
wait, why don't you like that? Why
because
don't
he
you like
was
that?
winning the match and he was clearly the superior player on that day. And this is a huge match with huge implications. And if I didn't I don't want to reveal what I think about the Djokovic incident. You can go back and look at our
Now
podcast.
you're letting the marketplace. Now you're letting the
But
marketplace.
but let's just say that you're a big Djokovic fan and you don't like what happened to Djokovic in that match and you think it was stolen and he should have gone on to win that US Open. Um, then why would you like this or why would you want Musetti? Two wrongs don't make a right. You know what I
Wait a second.
mean?
Wait a second. No, I thought Djokovic should have been defaulted that day, and I think we covered that. We covered that like instantly, and I think we said he should have been defaulted, and I agree.
Okay, that's a fair position, Joel. I just don't happen to agree with it.
Well, but Steve,
Sorry.
I think when the marketplace is invoked, as if does it matter that he was winning? Does it matter that he was playing a significant match, a first round, a semi, a final? That's where we're basing it on. Then it's like we're
If you zoom way out, you have to zoom way out and think about like I'm at the pearly gates making judgments here. Like, did he really deserve to be defaulted at for that?
Novak or Musetti.
Musetti.
Well, if that's the rule, if Novak did, then I think Musetti did, and Novak.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, right. So exactly. So if you advocate for a zero tolerance policy, I also think that's fair. The reason I disagree with it is because you can kick a tennis ball at 40 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour. I think there's a 0% chance anybody gets hurt. I don't think what Musetti did was dangerous, and I don't want players to be defaulted for something that just shouldn't have any consequence whatsoever. I mean, that's what it is. I don't care about the score in the match or who's winning, but I do care about the fact that what Musetti did is going to injure somebody 0 out of 100 times. It's just not going to happen.
Can I hit a ball out of the stadium?
That's a
Somebody
warning.
somebody needs to go and check and see if anyone was hit outside the stadium.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to station someone. I'm going to station someone out of the stadium. I mean, I don't know. I just think about these things, and I just think about in the wake of like what happens with Novak, and I just think it's become this kind of rule, and I think that thing with the doubles a couple of years ago that was very strange. And I think, okay, so what do you say? Like, don't do that. They know not to throw their rackets on the
Yeah,
court.
that's ideal.
Yeah, I mean, we just spent the last two. This tournament began with a great tribute to Nadal. So we got to ask ourselves, WWRD.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. What would Rafa do?
Yeah.
Rafa would never put himself even at risk. The players like Mickelson, who launched the ball, or Ottman, who launched the ball, they got lucky, but they risked it because that ball hits the wrong spot and they're defaulted. And to me, the risk is enough. But I get it. If you want zero tolerance, I get it.
If you want to be the greatest also competitor, it makes you think I'm going to just scale this very down to like the civilian world. And we see the type of person who you play doubles with who does things like kick a ball or throw a racket or yell at the park. Well, he's so competitive. And my answer, well, if he's so competitive, why isn't he competing? So one of the things we cherish about Rafa is how great he competes. And part of that competing is maintaining his focus. And we all lose it. I once hit I've thrown rackets. It's like fortunately, I didn't have an Uncle Tony, whatever. But I don't know. So, okay. So I guess that addressed the question I asked about should
Yeah.
Musetti be in the semi? He is. He is. I get it. I'm not gonna walk, have a picket sign and, and saying he should be banned from the semi, and that's it. He's in it, and it's going to be a fun match. And I like Musetti.
Alcaraz 5-1 against Musetti. The one loss is the first time they played, final of Hamburg 2022. That is, by the way, the only time Alcaraz has ever lost to a one-handed backhand on clay. It's an insane record. I don't have it on hand. It's north of 18-1, I believe. It's either 18-1 or
Wow.
even more against one-handers on clay, and that includes, of course,
Yeah.
a couple of matches against Tsitsipas, which famously have all gone Carlos's way.
He was a teenager that day in Hamburg still, so that was pretty early in the Carlitos journey.
He was.
Now it's a different time. I think there's going to be a lot of fun points. Going to be a lot of fun points, particularly in the first two sets. and then we see.
I agree. There's going to be a lot of fun points. I'm going to go. I'll go Alcaraz in four.
Okay.
Let's go to the women. So I made a statement on Twitter that Sabalenka has ascended to become the undisputed best with the win over Iga. I felt like that was the missing piece. As much as she's been the best player and the most consistent player in the last couple of years, I felt like she probably needed to beat Iga at Roland-Garros in order to just have that undisputed title of you don't need to qualify it. It's just she's the best. Now, the pushback would be, Gil, she still needs to beat Coco on Saturday, or that statement's not going to age well. And I would say, I don't know. I think even with the loss in the final, the win against Iga was very significant, just because of what Iga has been at Roland Garros, winning 4 out of the last 5 years. Um, do you agree with that statement, Joel?
That was a real valedictory bar mitzvah-like moment to beat Iga on clay and to win the third set 6-0. Yeah, I agree with that. I do think though the from the exclamation point becomes then grabbing the title because she's 3-3 in finals this year. Didn't win the Australian, so I think if she lost it to Coco, it's kind of like you're leading the league in batting, but maybe you're not the MVP because to lose two straight slam finals for Sabalenka, which is a little perplexing at this point. I think she's a significant favorite in that match versus Coco. Well, a favorite, not significant. But I agree, the beating Iga. Now the question is she I don't think she's going to be too emotional after and going to be like, oh my God, I beat Iga. Now I'm going to be flat for Coco. I think she's going to be excited. I think the loss earlier to Keys in Australia provides yet more motivation. It's like, I'm not going to lose a second straight slam final.
To answer your question, Gil, I think she is the undisputed number one, which of course the rankings reflect. But there's no like lag or some weirdness about the number one. She is. But then the next level would be, is she one of the greatest to ever play the game? And with this French Open title, she could be, because then we're getting into Ash Barty territory and other greats,
Yeah.
starting to compile like Sharapova, that kind of thing. So the title could really take her to the next level historically.
Well, this would vault her, and then she'd have won three of the majors, and then she comes to Wimbledon, seeking career slam. There's a lot of neat, history acceleration data, and she's still quite young. It would also validate her as truly the leading player, as opposed to the player who holds the number one ranking, who's lost the last two slam finals, which is kind of has its own. Like I said, you're leading the league in batting, but you're not necessarily the MVP.
Yeah. I mean, I said the same thing. I feel like sometimes it does go further than the rankings. And I said the same thing about Alcaraz and Sinner. Right now, if you're just like, who's the best? Uh, on the men's side, I think the appropriate response is Jannik Sinner, but Alcaraz has beaten him 4 times in a row.
Oh, I would say Alcaraz right now, but just at this very moment in time, just because Alcaraz just beat Sinner. So we'll
Okay.
see. We'll
You see
see.
what I mean then?
Yes,
So that's my
yes.
right. The rankings don't
Yeah,
always end the discussion.
yeah.
Um, and I think this was an example of a win that kind of went that extra mile to change the conversation around Sabalenka and Iga. What about what happened on the court? 6-love third set. First set tiebreak for Sabalenka. Iga did win the second 6-4. But man, I mean, the third set was emphatic. It's a bagel in the third. How would you assess what went down between the lines, Amy?
I don't know exactly if Iga doing what she did before is going to carry her to the heights that she had reached previously. I think she's going to have to make some changes. And how easily a player makes those changes, how willing they are to let go of some habits in the past, I'm not sure. So I think she's definitely going to have to address the serve. And She has that Western grip and she has a way that she hits her forehand and there's great upside to it and then there's some liabilities to it. And I think that was exposed in that third set.
Before Roland Garros, I wrote that Iga should fire her entire coaching team and just be on her own for a while. I mean, I was just kind of,
You wrote that?
yes, I did. I said, just be on her own. Yes. And,
Oh,
um,
I
and
missed that, Joel. You got to send that one.
I said she should play doubles with Betty Sands. I said she should rekindle the joy because she was seeming so distraught. This year's Roland Garros proved somewhat redemptive, in a nice, at least she got to the semis. She lost to someone who's in the finals or going to win it, etc. That was good. I still think, for example, so now you can zero it a little bit more technically, and I think Amy, you nailed it. I think that Iga serve, I have never been a fan of that service motion. And I think that motion triggered the second serve becomes, I hate to say this about a pro, obvious. It just becomes obvious, and it's a petunia. And quality returners, and not just people like Sabalenka getting pretty big, but even ones like Svitolina and other ones. It's like it's just a sitting there, and there's not a lot of. We come back to this again, imagination to it, variety, different ways of moving it around to set up points. And so then Iga she gets behind the eight ball in the rally and the forehand, and she's kind of too, spiking high and all concerned. The serve is not, it's not, I don't even know if it even helps her body get in the right place after hitting it, besides where it goes. The whole motion itself, I just find strange. So I will be curious now, Iga, will she play a pre-Wimbledon event? I hope she does and enjoys it and likes the grass and gets into it.
Yeah, it's that multifaceted thing. Sabalenka, I trust her under pressure more than Iga right now because I think Aryna enjoys being in the arena. Sorry, I didn't know I was gonna say it like that before I started the
Oh, that's
sentence.
good.
That's
Uh,
good. Good. We did this at 9.7. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, like she just loves the process of competing in these big matches right now. Didn't always, by the way. It used to torment her. But Iga, it's a totally different vibe. It's a vibe full of anxiousness. So, for that reason, I definitely feel like Sabalenka is getting the most out of herself when it counts the most, versus Swiatek, who sometimes isn't. But we're absolutely right to highlight the serve here. Let's face it, it got slaughtered in this match. And the rally stats, there aren't a lot of stats that can hold your hand and tell you what happened in a match. This is an exception because Ego was great in the 5 plus. As soon as the rallies went 5 plus, Swiatek was the better player. She won 36, or I'm sorry, 26 of the points, and Sabalenka won 16. So that's a solid advantage for Iga. In the 1 through 4, Sabalenka 81, Swiatek 47. Zoom into Iga's serve. When Iga was serving and they played short rallies, 1 through 4 shots, Sabalenka won 32 points, Iga won 22. That means that Sabalenka was more damaging, or at least just simply more effective, on her return +1 than Swiatek was on her serve +1. That just shouldn't happen.
That happens a lot in the women's game. I feel like
Yeah.
the women have become such great returners that your return +1 can be every bit as important as your serve +1. But I think you said 81 to 47 and 0 to 4. That's 128 points in 0 to 4. Wow. The points, the rallies were short
They
in
were.
this match.
Sabalenka, you mentioned, and that this will have implications for the final, for how Coco Gauff is cooking up her plan of how she's going to try to beat Sabalenka, which she has in a U.S. Open final. But Amy, you earlier mentioned when you mentioned Sabalenka and such greats as Sharapova, that was a neat connection because I think Sharapova, Monica Seles, these are the kind of +1 players that Sabalenka is in line with stylistically. The ones just like see the ball, man, there it is. Hit it the way I've been taught to hit it.
Hmm.
And it's not.
We haven't talked a lot about Coco Gauff here. Maybe we'll get to her next time, because she's, a great story here and an interesting player as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, let's go to the final. Can
Okay.
Coco disrupt what Sabalenka does in some kind of way. It can when these two play, it's usually kind of clear roles. Sabalenka is the hammer, Coco is the nail. The nail can win sometimes when the hammer
How?
misfires.
Oh, okay.
She did at the U.S. Open.
The
She
the
did at the
nail
US
won. The nail won at the U.S. Open. The hammer was all over the place. It couldn't find the nail.
And it hammered somebody's thumb. I think that's how the nail can win. I think the drop shot that you mentioned earlier with Sabalenka employing that, maybe not quite to the level that Novak did in the match against Zverev, but she has really brought that to bear. And it works so well for her because she can use her power baseline game to drive the opponent back and then drop shot. And it's not quite as well disguised as Alcaraz's, but it's pretty doggone good the way she disguises it. And it's just that Coco is faster than the average opponent. So we'll see how those cat and mouse points are played.
Yeah, she's going to have to absorb some early hits because Sabalenka likes to throw some big punches early in these rallies and then see, okay, let's put the reset button. And then I think with Sabalenka, the people have good success. They bring her to awkward parts of the court. And then she has to try. And even if she's become good at those kind of things, she doesn't really entirely always like doing those things the way she just likes standing and delivering and firing the ball. I mean, it's kind of like when she's playing best, it reminds me of Sinner in certain ways. She's just driving hard and deep and down the line and cross court. So um, I think for Gauff, the serving is going to be important. I think the whole Gauff forehand dialogue, which we're probably going to have for the rest of her career, has been behaving pretty well in Paris. But the serve part is going to have to be critical, whether it's moving around, getting first serves, avoiding double faults, all of that.
Totally agree. Yeah, and then there's always this battle for Coco. She can ramp it up like 117 at times when she tries. She's got such a cannon of a first serve, but does she then she has the second serve insecurity. So that goes one of two ways. She either decides, okay, I'm taking off my first serve and making more, and now I'm almost surrendering my weapon there, or I'm gonna go after the first serve, accept the misses, and I open up the vulnerability that I have on the second serve. So I think Gauff has that decision in front of her. It's always interesting to see how she plays it. Although ideal circumstance is the serve is just firing and it's not much of a concern at all.
Against Sabalenka, you got to think I'm not entitled to serve aces, but I need to make her return from different places. I need to get in lots of first serves because I don't want to be serving second serves to her and have her just crush them and build confidence. I need to I need to be kind of airtight. I need to borrow. Like I so love no the way Novak uses his serve, the pinpoint, the building, the accuracy, the moving it to different places. Yeah, he's not there to necessarily serve aces. Agassi did the same thing a lot, and I like that approach. And I think if Coco does that, that'll be better instead than getting seduced by thinking, got an ace here, got to hit an ace here.
I peeked at Coco's double fault numbers throughout this tournament, and she'll have a match where it's like three double faults, and I'm like, "Yay! How about that?" And then she'll play Madison Keys and have 10 double faults. So that is going to be a big key. What kind of a serving day is she having?
What do you guys think of the high ball? Like Coco just playing with a ton of net clearance, a lot of top spin, taking some speed off.
Love
On the
it.
forehand?
Yeah, on the forehand especially because she can get a lot of spin on it. The backhand she likes to hit straighter for sure.
Hmm.
But even on the backhand, like incorporating some loop, I think that's such a good way to blunt a power player and just take away their ability to really get into the ball and find their strike zone.
I'm
Um,
surprised it's not used more when I see some of these great players who can crack the ball. Like, yeah, in Sabalenka, you don't want to feed that strike zone all the time. You want her to feel like she's got to do so because Sabalenka always is looking to do something big and productive. And if you can force her to kind of like, yeah, we're gonna rally for a while up here, high, deep. Then maybe I might drop you. Then I might drive you again. Yeah, you. I mean, that's the last play in the world you want to get grooved.
I
Sab
like the mix of trajectories because it's a nightmare trying to play a player who has a very loopy forehand and a flat as all get out backhand. It's hard to groove your strokes that way. So I do like the mix.
I think that's going to be important. The one thing that Sabalenka might be able to do is take some balls out of the air. She's pretty good about recognizing when her opponent is going to throw the ball up, and she'll just come in and hit a drive volley. Sinner's great at that too. I think Jannik is so good at that. And
Coco Gauff, they're good, very fast. You better do something with that drive volley in the air, Aryna.
yeah, yeah,
And if the conditions that they've been are kind of thick, not going to be so easy to win the point off that.
yeah, it's true. My overall take on the match
Mhm.
is like I think Coco has a lot of good options against Sabalenka, and I think she has a lot of ways to challenge Sabalenka and make play tough defense in a way that bothers Aryna. But I think Arena's playing too well for anybody right now. If she's not going to make errors and she's going to be mentally tough and she's going to mix the power with the finesse and like do things defensively, like short defensive slice and chip returns that land awkwardly short in the court. I watch her play that third set against Iga, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care who it is on the other side. I just think she's at too high a level right now. So um, I'm going Sabalenka, and it's not because of the matchup or anything really too technical. I think she is at her best right now, too good for everybody.
I picked Coco pre-tournament to win the tournament, so I'll stick with that. I think just get her moving, get Sabalenka moving, don't let her groove. And it's a trap to think that, oh, I can get errors out of Sabalenka because that's old Sabalenka. You're just not getting those errors that you used to get. So dig in for a long day.
I think though, on form though, I think I like Sabalenka. I like the way she's been playing and conducting herself. But I think I'm excited to watch the match because I'm very impressed by how well Gauff has been playing too.
All right, should be good. Great weekend ahead at Roland-Garros. That'll do it for this episode of 3. Remember, we're available on all podcast platforms. Appreciate it if you leave a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time on the next episode of 3.